Well, good evening to Paul and to Kate. Welcome to both of you. So the polls then have just closed and counting will get underway shortly in a by-election which could decide the Prime Minister's future. After a bruising few months in which he has faced threats to his leadership, Sir Keir Starmer badly needs a Labour victory in what was, of course, a safe seat. So, Kate, Paul, big night in politics then.
Huge night, a really big, tough three-way battle. Greens, Labour, Reform, too close to call, probably. What does it mean for Keir Starmer? If he loses this formally safe Labour seat, you can imagine that the knives will come out for him against. If he wins it, though, certainly safe for the time being. So a lot riding on it.
Paul.
Well, it's one of these absurd things in a way, isn't it? I mean, as you say, it's going to be very tight and Labour might win it by a whisker or lose it by a whisker, which shouldn't make any real difference. What I hope it tells people is that our electoral system is crackers. We've now got five parties and a two-party system. So the outcome of the next election is basically going to be random according to how people vote across constituencies. When you've got two big parties, it works. When you've got five big parties, the outcome's just a game of dice.
Yeah, very interesting. So Labour then has been locked in a three-horse race in Gorton and Denton with the Green Party and Reform UK. Well, let's head to the constituency now. Political editor Beth Rigby joins us from the Count in Manchester. So much riding on this, Beth, and it could not be closer.
Anna, I have covered a lot of by-elections and this one is so unpredictable. It really is too close to call. I've put in all the phone calls tonight and no one knows which way this is going to go because it's actually a three-horse race, a race between Labour that hold this seat and won it by 13,000 majority in 2024, the Greens and Reform, and this is a constituency really of two parts. You've got Gorton, which is highly ethnically diverse, and then you've got Denton, which is very white, working class. The Greens really chasing down Labour in Gorton, and then in Denton, Labour fighting with Reform, and just going through the parties tonight and what's the mood music. I spoke to a Labour source earlier that told me that they were feeling pretty positive. They said they thought they'd held Reform at bay in Denton, and in Gorton it really is a straight fight between them and the Greens. I was told that they'd had over 1,000 volunteers out, the most volunteers they've ever had in a by-election campaign, apparently, on the last day. One source saying to me it's going to be too close to call. I'm not going to bet on it, but we are very much in contention. So that's the Labour perspective as the polls close. Reform said that they've had loads of volunteers out. One of the sources telling me we've done our best, they genuinely don't know. And then as for the Greens, they're feeling pretty positive too. And look, what would the outcomes be? Well, if Labour holds this seat, whatever the majority is, it will feel like a win. You'll remember that they lost the Runcorn and Hemsley by-election last year to Reform by just 6 votes. So if Keir Starmer manages to hold this seat, even though it's one of their safest seats with a massive majority, it will feel like a win. For the Greens, it would be completely seismic. They've never won a by-election before, despite contesting 87 of them, and they are currently, well, at the last election, they were in 3rd position. It'd be a huge moment for the Greens, and it doesn't bode well for Labour going into the May elections. And then, of course, for Reform, if they manage to take it, it would play into that idea of their momentum and Nigel Farage's desire to position himself as the main opposition to Labour. But so that's how it stands. But I'm actually joined by Zack, the leader of the Greens, who is here tonight. Zack, thanks for joining us on Sky News. You heard my summary of that. Did you disagree with anything? Do you think you're going to win?
I think it was a pretty good summary. The bit I would add, though, is this is the 127th target seat for the Green Party. So if you told me 6 months ago when I became leader of the Green Party, I would be stood here with you as polls close and talking about coming second or even first in a by-election like this, I would say that was pretty seismic in itself. So I'm incredibly proud of every volunteer that we had out on the street. Volunteers, so I accept that this might have been Labour's biggest by-election. Well, it's the Green Party's biggest by-election, and we had a lot more volunteers out there, but ultimately the votes are what matter. I'm incredibly proud of Hannah, So it's just a cross my fingers moment, really, and wait for results.
Let's cut to the chase. If I stuck a gun to your head, would you tell me you've won or not if you had to be pressed?
Well, I'd ask you to be less violent towards me, but I'm pretty sure we're in first or second place, and I think that is pretty incredible. I think if the weather's been right, then I think we could take this, and I'm feeling confident but not complacent.
What about what Labour said, though, about you coming in to fight them, that they are the only party that can fight both these parts of the constituency, and that by trying to challenge them in this way, instead of teaming up with the Progressives, if you like, you're going to lend votes, you're going to let reform come through the middle? What do you say to that, Zack?
Yeah, I think Labour's attitude is exactly why we're having this conversation in the first place, and the Greens are in contention. Labour, for years now, since they have become the government, or over the last 18 months, wanted to slash disability benefits, because the Greens, alongside other backbench MPs, that stopped them.
I mean, Labour MPs stopped them, actually.
Well, alongside Greens and outside campaigns.
It was Labour MPs, but...
I don't think it was enough Labour MPs in terms of we're not really seeing that progressive wing of the Labour Party on things like the genocide in Gaza. We're not seeing it on the child benefit cap that was kept for 18 months. And now we have Labour MPs proudly saying they've lifted it. But it took a lot of pressure, I accept, not just from Green MPs, from lots of outside campaigners. But I don't think the Labour government can be called progressive in any meaningful sense of the word. And even if they did win tonight and they managed to cling on, I think there's still much deeper questions about Keir Starmer's majority and how he's governing this country.
Just finally, just on the matter of Gaza, you have come under some criticism from Labour activists and some senior Labour figures saying that you were whipping up hatred, deliberately raising the salience of Gaza, urging constituents here to punish Labour for Gaza. What's your response to that criticism?
On average, a classroom of children are dying every single day in Gaza. So I believe for any Labour politician to say that another party is raising the salience of it demonstrates their absolute moral abhorrence on this issue, and the fact that they've not taken they had taken a clear position. They've continued to arm Israel and share intelligence. So yes, Gaza has been a salient issue in this constituency, but not just with Muslim voters, by the way. I would say anyone with decency and humanity who can see what's happening in that part of the world.
And just final question, the Prime Minister has been very critical of the Green Party and your drugs policy. You will know this. He has said that your policy to legalise heroin and crack cocaine, he said he thinks it's disgusting and that you should not be allowed into power. What's your response to that?
I think those were vile comments by the Prime Minister, and let's be clear why he's making them. He's making them because we've talked a lot about lowering bills, protecting the NHS and rebuilding our public services.
And legalising Class A drugs.
So he has no answers to those cost of living issues.
Class A drugs.
And in terms of legalising, we're talking about legalising and regulating. It's a public health approach. We have the highest drug deaths in the whole of Europe. You would think that any Labour government that pretended to be progressive or wanted to be progressive would want to take an actual approach to reduce drug death, particularly amongst young people and all adults in this country. But instead, we've just got smears and lies coming from this government. That's deeply damaging.
OK, final question then. What's your message to Labour voters tonight in terms of the Greens versus Labour?
My message to Labour voters were you don't have to accept the slop that Keir Starmer and this government is accepting. If you want a party that will lower your bills, if you want a party that will fight for you, and a party that actually cares about social justice in this country, then the Green Party are about to hit 200,000 members. We could do it this weekend. Join the Green Party. OK, Zack Polanski, thank you very much. Thanks so much.
Zack Polanski there from the Greens, feeling pretty confident that they might take this seat tonight. As I said, if that happens, it really will be a historic moment. Labour quietly confident as well. It really is going to go to the wire, so you're going to have to stay tuned to our election show and see how the night progresses.